Welcome to part 2 of this series. We will explore the key concepts, asset classes, diversification and correlation, and how they come together against the backdrop of hedge funds. Most importantly, we will show how hedge funds can help you to achieve your financial goals. People invest money because they want to achieve a certain goal, and so they put a lot of planning and effort into reaching those goals. Some invest to send their children to university, while others want to buy an expensive car or that family home that they've always dreamt about. There will be those that want to start their own businesses or to build up enough wealth to sustain themselves throughout their retirement years, or simply have the means to travel the world. In this way, investments are simply tools to accomplish what matters to you most in life, and it's a daunting thought to think that many external factors which you have no control over can have an influence on your journey toward achieving those goals. Hedge funds can play an important role here, as including them in your investment portfolio enhances potential returns and positively changes the risk dynamic of the portfolio. This will propel you closer toward achieving your goals and helping you to weather storms that may come throughout. Speaking of storms, investing can be very emotional, as it is tied to what is meaningful to you in life. The emotions of investors tend to go up and down as the economy and their investment value rise and fall, and we often refer to this as the emotional roller coaster of investing. You will experience fear, panic, depression, hope, relief, excitement, and everything in between during your investment period. The COVID-19 pandemic is a great example of this, having impacted the emotional and financial well-being of millions of people. So the question remains, how does a long-term investor strike the balance between making a financial goal a reality without being in a constant state of emotional turmoil? Exploring the concepts of asset classes, diversification and correlation against the backdrop of hedge funds should bring us closer to the answer. Please watch the following videos, which will explain the basics of these concepts and how it all comes together to create a great investment portfolio. Thereafter, I will explain how it applies specifically to hedge funds.
What is an asset class? An asset class is a group of financial securities that have similar characteristics. They behave similarly in the marketplace, and they are subject to the same laws and regulations. There are 5 main asset classes: equity or shares, property, fixed income, cash and cash equivalents, and alternatives. Alternatives include hedge funds, commodities, and private equity. Investments in different asset classes react differently to news. The same piece of news might be positive for equities or shares, negative for fixed income, positive or negative for alternatives. Equities are shares in the ownership of publicly owned businesses. Equity value goes up or down based on investors' perception of company performance. Historically, equities get the most return but also have the most volatility. Property can be homes, investment properties, or collection inside property funds. Property value tends to be more stable than equities, but can still go up or down sharply. Fixed income, like bonds and annuities, pay a fixed amount for a set number of years, then returns the principal to the buyer. Fixed income value movement is based on interest rates and is more stable than equities. Cash and cash equivalents includes cash and short-term liquid securities. Cash and cash equivalent value is considered the safest and least volatile. Diversification is owning investments across different asset classes. This lowers portfolio risk. Combining these different asset classes creates balance inside of your investment portfolio. What is diversification? We have all heard the saying, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. This is a simple way of saying spread your risk, so that if you drop a basket, all of your eggs aren't lost at once. The key to implementing successful portfolio diversification is not simply selecting different assets, but rather holding assets that behave differently to one another. Asset performance is driven by information. Whether public or private, this information influences different assets and asset classes. True diversification is having different behavioral responses to the same piece of information received. Imagine a world where we all responded to situations in the news in the same way. The world would be an unbalanced place. We would rather want different responses to the news. Some calm or optimistic, sensitive or concerned, others fixers or problem solvers, or completely neutral. Diversity is important. It brings balance, and this is true for investing as well. Market news enters your portfolio of assets. The assets held within your portfolio should behave differently toward that news. Some go up, others down, all in varying degrees. Some do not respond at all. Holding assets within your portfolio that have different behavioral responses to information released is good for diversification. The process of measuring the type and degree of this relationship is called correlation. What is correlation? Monitoring correlation is key to generating excess returns. Correlation measures the degree of how much two securities move together or move oppositely to each other. The correlation coefficient is like a gauge, and it falls somewhere between -1 and 1. There are 5 types of correlation: perfectly positive correlation, no correlation, negative correlation, and perfectly negative correlation. Perfectly positive correlation is when two securities move together exactly. It is 100% correlated with a correlation coefficient of 1. Positive correlation is when two securities move similarly but not exactly, having a correlation coefficient between 0 and 0.99. No correlation means the movement of the one is not influenced by the other at all. Negative correlation is when two securities move somewhat opposite to one another, with the correlation coefficient between -0.99 and 0. Perfectly negative correlation is when two securities move exactly opposite to one another. They are 100% negatively correlated, with a correlation coefficient of -1. In the last 3 videos, we explained asset classes, diversification, and correlation separately. But how do these 3 concepts all come together to help create a great investment portfolio? If you wanted to create a balanced investment portfolio and apply these principles, what does this look like in application? What assets do you choose, and how much of each asset do you hold? In our diversification video, we spoke about not putting all of your eggs inside one basket. You can spread your eggs into different baskets by investing across different securities, which is companies, sectors being industrial, technology, resources, financial, styles or investment strategies being quality, value, growth or momentum, asset classes, equity, property, fixed income, hedge funds, private equity, and so forth, geographies, different countries, currencies being rand, dollar, pound, euro, and levels of economic development being developed versus developing countries. Diversification is about combining these assets inside a portfolio whose prices and returns behave differently to the same piece of information, news, factors, or events occurring. This gives you more levers to pull in generating returns within your investment portfolio. This would mean including assets inside your portfolio that are not correlated, less correlated, or negatively correlated. Remember, correlation is like your ruler that helps you measure the relationship between two asset classes or assets. Let's examine 3 examples. In times of high inflation, central banks want to raise the interest rates. An example of positive correlation would be, in general, equity and bonds will tend to both perform poorly in response to this information. In the case of negative correlation, in general, while equity and bonds will tend to perform poorly, commodities will tend to perform better in response to this information. In the case where central banks want to lower the interest rates, an example of positive correlation, in general, 2 bank shares will tend to both perform poorly in response to this information. With negative correlation, no correlation, or low correlation, while bank shares will tend to perform poorly, technology companies will tend to perform better in response to this information, depending on specific circumstances affecting the markets at the time. In times where there is political instability in a country that is dominant in producing oil, an example of positive correlation would be weaponry or military company shares, gold and oil commodities, and companies linked to oil production will all tend to perform better in response to this information. With negative correlation, financial companies will tend to perform poorly, while gold and oil commodities will be performing better. Even so, in specific circumstances, there are factors that will similarly affect many securities, many asset classes, and even regions at the same time. The effectiveness of diversification will vary over time. Often, portfolio managers actively monitor investment ratios to make sure these factors are optimized for investment returns.
Hedge funds unlock a world of investment opportunities. When we look at asset classes, we see that hedge funds typically invest in the same asset classes as traditional unit trusts, but they take advantage of a broader range of investment strategies and thereby generate investment returns in uniquely different ways. For instance, a hedge fund can make profits when the value of shares increase as well as when they decrease in value, providing investors with a good return even when markets are falling. We will look at these strategies in Part 5. When it comes to diversification, hedge funds are considered to be opportunistic investments because they provide opportunities that are not otherwise available through traditional unit trust funds. Hedge fund managers can invest across all asset classes, jurisdictions, industries, or companies, and so forth. Lastly, hedge funds can typically show a low correlation to traditional asset classes. This means that they can behave differently in similar market conditions, and because of this can add to your returns as well as provide protection when other asset classes are not performing well. So what then is the key takeaway? It is clear that holding hedge funds in an investment portfolio enhances potential returns and positively influences the risk dynamic of the portfolio. Whether you're investing to fund your children's tertiary education, planning on spending your golden years in comfort, or hoping to travel the 7 seas, including hedge funds in your investment portfolio will contribute to transforming your financial dreams into a reality. Please join us for Part 3 as we will look deeper into what makes hedge funds unique in how they function differently to traditional unit trusts.